What if the meaning of life has nothing to do with what you achieve? What if it has nothing to do with building a legacy or having a grand purpose? My son is 3.5 years old, and this is what I desperately want him to know. This is what my father never taught me, and it took me 50 years to figure out. For 50 years, I carried this belief that life is all about me making it work, about achieving, about making my goals happen. And the worst part about that is that I felt like I have control over it, that I can make things happen, that it's all up to me, that if I know exactly what my goals are, if I know what my purpose is, if I know where I'm moving, it's up to me to make things happen. And if I didn't, I was a failure. This was tremendously heavy. It brought so much regrets for all the things that I couldn't make happen in the past. Because look, it was all up to me. So if I didn't make things happen, I failed at life. And I felt this constant pressure for decades to make my life matter, to make my life mean something, to think about my goals, line them up, and then make sure that they happen. And when they didn't, I was a failure in life. Many years ago, I had a little business, a healthy bakery and a storefront. I did my best to make it work, but 3.5 years after I started, I closed it down. I lived in that idea that I was a failure, and it destroyed my first marriage. It happened exactly as it must have happened, but I wish that I had this knowledge back then. Because if I had this knowledge back then, I wouldn't have carried this guilt and this heavy feeling of being a failure. If you're in your 50s or 60s or even 40s, you probably have decades of life not going the way it's supposed to go or how you wanted it to go. And this is extremely heavy. Now, if you're in your 20s, you still have a lot of time. You feel like, oh, okay, if I didn't make this first thing happen, the second thing happened, I still have decades in front of me. But when you're in your 40s, your 50s, your 60s and beyond, it doesn't feel that way anymore. The biggest idea that my whole system and body is revolting against right now is the idea that we have to achieve in life. We have to make things happen, the go-getter, the achiever. You have to make life work for you. You have to know your purpose. You have to know your goals. You have to make something big happen in life. You have to contribute to humanity in some way. The biggest thing is you have to make your life matter, and it's all up to you to do that. And if you don't, then you failed and your life is a failure. Some years ago, I was exposed to the teachings of Bernardo Kastrup, who's a scientist but also a philosopher. He said something about 1.5 years ago, or I watched videos and heard him say these things and discuss them. At the first hearing of these ideas, my whole system revolted. It was almost insulting to my ego to hear that and to begin to digest it. I mean, not me, my true being, but my ego self, my dominant identity, just didn't want to digest that. And what he was saying was this: you're not here to fulfill your purpose. You're here so nature can fulfill its purpose through you. You are not the protagonist of your life. You're more like an apple blossom on an apple tree. And these are my words, but he gives this example of the apple blossom on the apple tree. And he says, imagine if an apple blossom thought that life is all about it. Then it would never die. It will refuse to die. It would just cling on the tree, wanting to be an apple blossom forever. But if it doesn't transform into what happens after that, then there is no apple, there is no tree, there are no apple trees at all. So if every apple blossom made its life about itself and its own agenda, then nature doesn't work. So I want to share 3 insights with you that hopefully will make your life easier as well. The first one is, you probably guessed it, life isn't about me. In his book, The Diamond and the Soul of the West, here is the book, which I highly recommend. That's his latest book. Here is what Bernardo says. This is the great discovery of the second half of life. Our life has never been, and can't ever be about us. The first half of life is focused on personal goals. That's necessary. We have to carve our space in the world. But then we become effective instruments of nature's self-expression. Why does this matter so much? Or why does it matter to me? This brings tremendous liberation. Now I don't have to feel responsible that I should have made my life work or that I have to make life work. And what I mean by making life work is clinging to my egoic plans, to my conscious self, laying out its desires and ideas and purposes and how I want my life to go or how I wanted my life to go and things didn't happen. All this burden falls away. Let me expand just a little bit on control here because this is very important. This is something that it took me time to really grok and accept deep in my being. Once it really landed, it made life far easier. And it's the idea that we are doings of nature. We don't really have much control over our lives. The ego structure wants to think that we do, but we don't really. We have a little bit of way of influencing life, but we don't control life. Nature controls life. And we didn't, like Bernardo says, we didn't parachute here. We are nature. Nature is us. Leo Gura from Actualize.org gave this example and I really loved it. He says, imagine that you are a hummingbird in a hurricane. Now you can flap your wings. You may be able to change direction a little bit, but eventually you're going where the hurricane is going. That's it. That's how much influence we have over life. If you want to test that for yourself, that's very easy. Here is a quick test. Try to have only happy thoughts for a week. Try for an hour. What happens? You can't? Exactly. That's exactly what we mean. So that's how much control we have. Why? Because we're doings of nature. So this idea, if you really stay with it for a while and you realize on a very deep level that you don't really have much control, and then you can retrospectively and retroactively apply that to everything that you wanted in life that didn't happen, there will be so much burden lifted off of you and so much heaviness will just go away. And then you can take the same idea and future pace with it and then liberate yourself from the future as well. Now, does that mean that you just throw your arms in the air and you resign from life? Because look, obviously I don't control my life. Therefore, I shouldn't even be trying. I just sit back and wait for life to happen to me. No, that's not what it means. You still have your intentions, you still have your goals, you still have your desires. You just remove the attachment that it has to happen exactly that way or that it has to happen at all. The idea here is to drop the responsibility to make your life work exactly how your ego wants it to work. Bernardo's close friend says something that I really love. Persisting with an egoic agenda into the second half of life is like sticking chewing gum to the strings of a violin. The whole thing goes out of tune. When we stick to our egoic plans, we don't allow nature to play how it wants to play, and everything goes out of tune. Here's the second insight. We're nature's eyes. Bernardo says, imagine that you are a spy of nature. We all are spies of nature. We're nature's eyes and ears. Look, nature is immensely powerful, but it doesn't have contemplative powers. It's not metacognitive. What this means is it cannot reflect upon its own doings, and the doings of nature are us and our actions. And so it needs us, it needs you, me, all of us to contemplate itself. And how does nature contemplate itself? By us contemplating existence, by us contemplating our own lives, by us experiencing fully what we experience around not making life work, going through suffering, struggle, going through the happy moments, contemplating all of that, being engaged in life, thinking about what this means, thinking about what life means, what's the purpose of life, why am I here, what is life doing through me? All of these are how nature contemplates itself through us. You, I, and each one of us are unique perspectives that nature is looking through. And this is where really meaning is found in life. You and I and all of us being the spies for nature, contemplating our lives, going through everything that we're going through, only because the experience we go through is the unique contribution to nature. The third insight, freedom from the need to achieve. Look, we still have our goals, we have our desires. Of course, this is important. It's not exactly like what the Eastern traditions teach. We are Westerners, and if you read this book, you will understand how the Western life is different than the Eastern life. So all of these matter tremendously. What is really important that the Eastern tradition teaches is that we don't attach how or whether things will happen. So having shared all of this with you so far, I want to give you a personal example of my struggles around needing to control life, thinking that it's all under my control and that I have to make my life work exactly the way I saw it and planned it. Like I said in the beginning of this video, I had this bakery, but it didn't work and I was crushed. And I was so crushed in the way that I felt I was a failure. I internalized failure so deep that I made it my identity. In other words, I didn't fail, I was the failure. And this identity persisted for years. As much as my first partner wanted to help me with that for years and years and years, eventually she had to let me go because I was so deeply steeped into me being just a failure. Not failure only in business, but failure in life, failure as a husband, all around failure. So it cost me my first marriage. So now let's go to the big implications of everything I've shared with you so far. The first big implication is the freedom from regret that cleans up our past. Up until several years ago, I felt like I should be further along in life, that I should have made my life work, that I should have made all of or most of my desires happen. And because I didn't, I was a failure and I wasted my life, and that was tremendously heavy. Now, knowing that nature is expressing through me and that I never had full control, I'm just a hummingbird in the hurricane, just like you are. I can influence life, but I cannot control life because I'm an expression of nature. Knowing this, I can apply this, which I already have, retroactively to my entire life. The heaviness that has dropped off my chest is enormous. It's hard to even state in words. If you can accept some of these ideas and you can apply them to your life retroactively, you will clean up your past. There won't be this heaviness and this regret and this remorse and this suffering around wasting your life. This will all fall away. And as I'm sharing this here, you're probably having some thoughts already about your past. I wanted to ask you, what is one thing that you feel like you wasted your time on and it didn't work for you and you failed at? Let me know in the comments below. I read all the comments. And the second big implication in real life is freedom from the future. Making decisions becomes much easier. I still have my goals, I still have my plans, but they are not something that drives my life in the way that it used to, in the sense that my happiness does not depend on my goals and plans. Here is something you can try right now. Pick one regret that you feel you wasted your time on or you failed at, and then stay with this for a few moments. And then write in a journal, I didn't fail at that. It wasn't about me achieving that or succeeding. It was about me having that experience. And then stay with that for a few moments and see what percolates and what surfaces up for you. If you're anything like me, your entire ego identity will revolt against that, and it'll go like, what do you mean? It's not about our dreams and goals. It's not about achieving. It's not about making things happen in life. It's not about making what we want happen. What do you mean? That's not right. That's why it took me weeks and weeks to start grokking this idea in the sense of accepting it deep within. But once I accepted it, life became so much easier. So if you're anything like me, you may go through something like this, and that's totally fine. And look, I know that what I'm sharing here with you is not easy stuff. These are not easy questions. They're deep. So I have this little community on WhatsApp. It's called Deeper Prime, where there are about 60 of us there, and we contemplate questions like this. It's very respectful, and all of us are helping each other tremendously. Now, if this resonates with you, if you like to contemplate questions like this together, the join link is in the description of this video. You're more than welcome to join us. Also, I make videos like this now every week. And again, if you like contemplating or being introduced to questions and ideas like these, make sure you subscribe to this channel. So in closing of this, what do I want my 3.5-year-old son to know about life and about meaning? Now, he's again too young, and I cannot tell him these things right now, but I can share these things with you. And I can record this video for him, so one day when he finds it, he can be introduced to these ideas. Or maybe he'll just see how I do life and understand all of this from just observing me. But what I want to share with him right now is this. Life is not about you. Life is about nature expressing through you. And you don't really have much control over your life. But your desires, your wants, your wishes, all of this is valid. It's valid in the sense that it gives you direction, as long as you don't attach your happiness to your desires and wishes and dreams and plans, because ultimately you're going where life wants you to go. And if you release the burden of making life work the way your ego wants it to work, life will be much easier for you. And this is my message for you, my son. Maybe someday you will watch this video, maybe you'll go, maybe that's how it all works. And maybe that's enough.